My name is Bob Caya, and I'm the president of Standard Drywall. Let's see, I've been with the company now, 34 years. I love it. I've loved it ever since I started working in the field many years ago in the drywall industry, and went to college, and afterwards it was what I wanted to do. My father was in the business. He owned a company years ago called PFC Incorporated. And my dad always, he did not want us working in the business until we were in college. He was afraid that we would like the money that a union contractor or union carpenter would make, and wanted to make sure we got our education also. So once we were in college, during the summers, he would allow us to work in the field. And I think because I was who I was and my dad, I got to work with some really good people. So I think by, relating to them and learning from them, they were hard on me, but I loved it. I loved what I did. In fact, when I got out of college, which I majored in accounting, I wanted to go continue my apprenticeship program with the carpenters. And my dad told me, go take a hike and go get your own job. So I did that. I went and worked for a couple of years at Hughes Aircraft and in the procurement department. And then a couple of years later, my dad said, all right, are you ready to be an estimator? And I said, I'm ready. I can hardly wait. So we had bought Standard Drywall at that time. My dad had coordinated it through us. And then, due to at the time, Standard was a non-union company, so that was a way for him to possibly get into, doing residential and things that you really can't do. So I got an opportunity to come aboard as an estimator, and from there, it just kind of kept working up the chain. I pursued a career in construction because that's what he did, and just learning from him, it just made a lot of sense to me. There's construction, contracting as a whole, building things is fantastic. I mean, to see walls go up and to see things turn white with the drywall, it's exciting. I had the education in accounting, the numbers game, and the rest of it I had to learn. What do we do? What do we build? How do we do it? And once I learned that, I enjoy it. I think what I wish people knew more about is the opportunities. I think that our industry so often, number one, what's neat about our industry is you can't take it offshore. It's not going anywhere. We build and we build here. That's a unique thing because so many things are being done in India, so many things are being done in different parts of the world. And there are a few companies trying to do as much as possible in doing that, but for the most part, it's all done here. You have to be here to do it. And so I think that's a great thing. I think the opportunities and the qualities, there's so much, like whether you're in estimating, project management, whether you're physically building, on all levels, there's opportunities. For a carpenter, a union carpenter has a very good middle class life. And yes, it's hard work. Yes, there's a lot of stress in it, but at the same time, there's a satisfaction at the end of what they've done and what they've built. They can go by it and be proud of that. So that's on that level. On other levels, be it an estimator, there's a lot of sales involved, marketing. There's just so many things. We now have with Lindsay we have inside counsel to help us navigate the contracts and things. So there's just so many different aspects and team base. We're like any other large company, that's out there. And when you're a smaller drywaller, it's the same thing. All those things, but they're done by maybe one person rather than three. just due to the size and complexity. So yeah, so that's what I think I want people to know about our industry. I bring to the table in my position the ability, and this is something that when we were a much smaller company, that my wife, who has kind of helped me, been a big helpmate throughout my career, she was the one that told me I really was afraid to let go of the individual tasks. And so I would want to do all the estimating myself or do all of the project management myself or negotiations. And she told me, look, if this company's ever going to grow, you're going to have to let that go. You're going to have to depend on and teach other people how to do what you do or know how to do. And it was an interesting thing when I still remember when she said it. It was probably almost 30 years ago. But so I think I've learned to do that very well. I've learned to, kind of put the broad, okay, here's the game plan that we're going to do. I need to know a lot about a little, or a little about a lot, I should say. The opposite. I need to be able to know what kind of is going around in the industry, or how to create or put a general plan together, and let our project managers, our estimators, our sales team, let them run with it. And I feel like I do that well. It's not easy. You have to be able to depend on people and go, okay, I hope so-and-so understood what I meant by that. I hope he's going to run with this from here. But generally, I've been blessed to work with a great group of people here at Standard, and they understand what I do. They've been here a long time, and they go, yep, I take it from here. And thank goodness I get that opportunity to work with them. I think burnout is the biggest thing. I think that it's so important in this industry to make sure that we spend time with our families, but yet it has to be a balance. You have to be able to, I think, flexibility within our careers. I think that you need to look and say, okay, my family needs me at home. I don't want to miss my son's games on Saturdays or whatever, but yet we have to still be concerned about getting our job done. So those habits are being able to realize what those are, listening to the cues at home and listening to the cues at work, and knowing that, okay, I've got to, this job's really important for us. And it bids next Tuesday. I'm going to have to put in Saturday and Sunday. But then the next weekend, I'm going to be there on Saturday for all the games and make sure I'm there. And that could be during the week too. I allow everybody here to be able to do those. But those habits, they have to know on a regular basis, okay, I got to put a lot of time in so that when those other times come, for my family, I need to be there. So I guess time management is a big thing that people really need to embrace and understand, and not make somebody like me be the policeman. Hey, you need to be here 8 to 5. No, that's really not it. It's putting in the time to do the right things at the right times, both at home and at work. So those things are important. I think more than anything, that's what you really need to take and avoid the things that are going to hurt those things, your family life and your work life. I love the ability in my job to get to talk to each and every person. That's my favorite thing, is to be able to talk to people, to kind of hear how they think things are going. What do they need help on? How can I help? Or, maybe just assure them that they're doing the right thing. So that's the favorite part of my job. Every day's different. my days vary. Some days, like a Friday, it might be going out and golfing in the afternoon with a couple of friends that happen to be working for a general contractor. Another day might be here doing what I just told you, where I'm going around and talking to each person in the office, finding out what's going on their jobs, finding out what jobs we're pursuing, and what can I do to help. Other days are going out on the job sites and walking the jobs with our superintendent, Carlos, or some of our, when I'm indirectly, I go to some of the different offices that we have and going and working with our general managers in those offices. So it really varies. Other times it might be grabbing lunch or grabbing breakfast with the president of one of the other big general contractors in town. And I enjoy all of it. I enjoy each and every day. But yeah, each day varies. The people part of it, that's a big part of it. The friendships that you forge, the common bonds that you make through doing things that are tough together. And I love to see, from a mentor point of view, watching people grow and learn. I happen to have the blessing of working with my daughter and my two sons, and my wife and my brother. There's a lot there that, from that perspective, it's not easy. At times there's a little bit of conflict here and there with that, but overall it's just awesome. It's very important for a company to have leadership from the top down. There's a lot of change in our industry right now, and if you look at general contractors, they're the first to integrate different things that are happening within our world into their culture. I'm watching to see how these companies that are ESOPs, how they're able to adapt the culture. What I think is very important in a culture is to have an owner or one or two people that ultimately are responsible to make the final call, the final decision. And then I think it's important for everybody to have input and to be able to be trusted, to be able to do their thing in their world and be able to run with it and feel confident in what they're doing, that they're doing the right thing. They have loud, clear direction. And I think people flourish in that. How do I stay up to date? I have a couple of guys here that I depend on in Dan Spicone and Pete. So it's very important to do it. And then if I see something, then I think, okay, I better check in on this. And so then I'll go talk further with Pete and Dan and find out. So that's how I do. And that way I know kind of ahead of time what's changing. Do we need a new policy for, I think there's one recently that's just been coming on that indoor heat. We have to have a whole plan in place for that. So that's how I do. I wanted to be, and I know you may find this funny, I initially wanted to be a pharmacist, but I also wanted to do this. I also wanted to be an estimator. And I couldn't really decide. At one point, I also wanted to be a pilot, an airline pilot. And so I kind of went through kind of a thing. The first thing was the pharmacist. And I realized as I got into senior year of high school that you need to get to about a high level of math. And I had a lot of good common sense math, but when I got up into the high-end calculus, you started to lose me a little bit. So I knew that was going to be a big challenge. So I kind of went away from the pharmacy thing. And then the airline pilot, I started to learn to fly after I got out of college, and I realized I was colorblind. and you can't be an airline pilot if you're colorblind. So that eliminated that. And then I was working at Hughes Aircraft, but at that point I knew I wanted to be an estimator. I wanted to be an estimator, a project manager. And I asked my dad, and I think he just watched to make sure that I could stand on my own 2 feet. And when he realized he could, then he just said, all right, you want to do this? Yep. And gave me my opportunity, and here I am. I'm seeing a lot of women in the field, and being able to do things in the field and physically do them. I mean, we have women that are hangers, we have women that are framers, we have women that are tapers, we have women that are, stocking drywall. I mean, there's no limitations anymore. Our workforce, we're more and more challenged to find good people, and women are filling that void in a big way. There are women, I remember, I was thinking about it a little bit earlier, over the years that, maybe you'd see one that was good, then the next one's not. Now, I mean, there's, some of the best project managers I see out there are women, and they handle themselves so well, because it's not easy at times. There's still some chauvinists out there, some of the older people, and they're not as receptive, they're not as nice, and yet they have to prove themselves. And that's not just women, that's young people as well. The young people these days need mentorship from all of us. That's part of our job now. And I'm not sure at what age I figured that out, probably around 50, that we're not gonna be here forever, and we need to start purging our knowledge and giving it to others. And women are a big part of that. It's really good, and I just think we need to continue to do that with our young people, give them opportunities and let them flourish. The lesson that I learned, I think, most is time management. That you have to, while your career is important, while the task is important, you also have to switch hats and be there also for your family. And I feel like I did a very good job of that, or the best I could do. But there were some days where it's tough when you're going home. You got to take your hat and put it this way, and be dad or do it. But I think that focus is very, very important. And I think as a person that's supervising people, I need to encourage that and make sure that people know it's okay if you need to be there because somebody's sick, or you need to be there. I think that lesson is the most important when you talk about a career, because if you don't do those things right, if you don't, your marriage breaks up because you weren't there, or you don't do enough at work. I mean, that's, if you're just lollygagging around or something, that's not going to work either. But to be able to focus on those things that are important and do them both well. But if you sacrifice one for the other, it's not going to work. There were several throughout the years. I think when I look back on milestones, and many of them are company milestones, but for me, they just kind of reminded us of the success that what we were doing. We went so quickly from a company that was small, and we just incrementally kept growing. I think the biggest thing was when we got a bonding line. For me personally, it took us 6 months to get a payment and performance bond, to be bondable. And we had to work really hard for it. And we had to do a lot of financial stuff and things like that. And then it wasn't long before we went from one bonding company to another company that was more mainstream. And I remember when we had our bonding line, and it kept increasing because we kept doing more work and going through and dealing with these, like Liberty Mutual is our bonding company. They've been our bonding company for over 20 years. But having their whole team here discussing and having one guy going to bat for us to give us another large increase. And I remember that day and him believing in us and me, and giving us that opportunity. And now they literally will, whatever I want. You know what I mean? If I ask for this, they know that we've thought it through and they'll support us. But it was the first couple of times and having their guys kind of outside our office arguing and back forth, and then the guy coming back saying, yes, we'll give it to you. I think that was a major milestone for us. Oh, I think my work life, I've talked a lot to you about work-life balance. It's really important. I think because I've tried my best to do it. I talk with my wife often. Now our kids are grown, of course, so it's a lot easier. It's not. Back then, we were fortunate that my wife Ann would stay home with our children. Not only could we do it, but it was a sacrifice on both of our parts to do it, but that she was willing to do it was a big thing, and I have great appreciation for her for that, because I think our children, who are now all grown adults, they're very successful because of the sacrifices that she made. But I think now it's just making sure that we have time together too. You know, it's so important. The work-life balance is so important, and if it's out of whack, I hear about it and it's stressful. So I don't like to be out of whack. I like to keep it in check. And sometimes that's subjective, you know, by me or by my wife, both of us. And it's important all the way through, you know. That relationship is important as anything we do here.